All right, good morning. Today is Friday, September 25th, and this is a recap of today's live session that we had if you were not able to make it. So, if you were not able to make it to today's live session, I want you to play this video at the same time that you open up the slideshow that looks just like what I'm presenting on the screen. That way you can listen and then you can pause it and answer some of the questions. So, the first thing that I want you to do, I want you to think about what are some of the major characteristics of a dictatorship. So pause this video for a minute and just think about some of those characteristics. Okay, so the characteristics that hopefully came to mind for you include this list. In a dictatorship, the authority of the government is unlimited. So the government is not limited by laws and a constitution. The government oftentimes may rule through force and fear. Citizens cannot choose or change their leaders, so the leaders may end up ruling for many years. Citizens have no guaranteed rights. Dissent or disagreement with the government is punished oftentimes, and citizens cannot publicly criticize or complain about the government. The press or media is controlled by the government and is often censored. Again, that word censorship means the government's only allowing people to see what they want them to see. So one thing that we talked about in our live session was how dictators come to power. And in our live session, we looked at the life of Hitler. Adolf Hitler is probably one of the most infamous dictators the world has ever known. And we watched a brain pop, which unfortunately I can't give you access to, about his life. And we talked about how it is that he came to power. Because most of the students agreed that he did some pretty heinous things once he was in control of Germany back in the 1930s and 40s. So you're going to pause this video, and I want you to watch this clip of Hitler making his first speech to the German people as something like their president. It's a condensed version. It's only 2 minutes, 48 seconds. He is speaking in German. So keep that in mind. And just if it's too loud, if the volume's too loud, you can turn it down and you can read his subtitles. And when you're watching it, I want you really to pay attention to what his message is and how the people are reacting. So pause the video and go ahead and watch. All right, now you're going to answer right on the slideshow that's posted. How did the crowd react to Hitler? Did they boo him? Were they cheering him on? And what was his message? So you can pause the video, go and answer those things. Now, this kind of brings us back full circle to what we talked about in Wednesday's live lesson, which is all about misrepresentation, which is a fancy word really for kind of like a lie. So a lot of times in a dictatorship, leaders may come to power through empty promises, elections. That's how Hitler really gained his power. And then he made a lot of those promises to the people. You saw him in his speech. A dictator might be a hero of war, and the people really support him initially. And then there are still cases where the leader might take that power by force. Leaders may keep their power through intimidation or force or fear or coercion. And then typically a dictatorship, that country is always going to try to make themselves look democratic, both to the people living in the country and to the outsiders. So now I want you to switch gears a little bit. And the second thing we talked about in our live session was the idea of propaganda, because dictatorships often use propaganda to gain and keep power. So you're going to pause the video, and on the slideshow, tell me what is propaganda and what do you think that word means? Or I'm sorry, what do you think that word means? So once you've unpaused your video, I am going to ask that you watch the two video clips that you see here. This guy talks about 7 propaganda techniques that are used, and then this is another one. Because here's the thing, propaganda is something that's designed to get you to believe a certain thing or get you to think a certain way. We experience propaganda on a daily basis, even in our country. Advertisers, politicians, they all use propaganda. It's not always necessarily a bad thing, right? But it's important to know what propaganda is so that you can recognize it when you see it, and so that you understand how sometimes these authoritarian governments come to be. So you're going to watch these two clips, And you can go ahead and pause me right now. So a common place that you see propaganda is in advertising. For example, this mascara advertisement. You see it a lot in food, fast food, competition between fast food companies. You can go ahead and pause my video and watch this testimonial of Drake. I put the link right here. He's going to be advertising for Sprite. And then you're going to pause again and go back to that slideshow posted and answer and tell me, do you see examples of propaganda in your everyday life? What are they? So once you have, you're going to pause me. Once you've unpaused me, in our live session, we looked at some political propaganda then. And since we talked about Hitler, I chose some propaganda from Nazi Germany. So this is a poster that was found hanging up in much of Germany. And it's showing, the people that it's showing are supposed to be showing starving and homeless Germans. Because at the time when Hitler came to power, Germany they were in a depression. The country was not doing well economically. And this saying on the poster was, "Our last hope, Hitler." So getting people to see, okay, we are suffering and Hitler is our hope. Other political propaganda examples, again, Rosie the Riveter, we can do it. That was a call, to rise up during one of the world wars. I want you for the U.S. Army. When Obama ran for office, right? Some made a campaign poster that said hope, and it was designed off of another popular campaign that had been out years prior. These are some historical examples of propaganda. When communism was an idea that many countries were moving toward in the 40s and 50s. It doesn't matter what communism is, we can talk about that a different day, but you can see this is New Zealand's poster, "Join the Communist Party, this way to progress." This is a poster from the United States showing communism. Is this tomorrow? With the flag up in flames and people fighting. So you don't have to type anything, right? But you could just think in your head, it's pretty clear what one country feels as opposed to another. And, they both felt they were right. The last thing I want you to take a look at, and I kind of just threw this in there for fun, I want you to look at this pamphlet. This was a pamphlet that was distributed through an area hospital many years ago, probably about 15 to 20 years ago. The hospital is now the University of Toledo Medical Center. It used to be called the Medical College of Ohio. So I want you to look at that brochure, look at the cover, and then on the slide, I want you to tell me anything that you might notice about that picture, because it could be considered propaganda. And I will reveal to you the truth next week. All right. Have a good Friday.